Movies like Batman Begins and Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice are full of scenes lifted directly from the pages of DC Comics, but as the DC Extended Universe ramps up towards the next Batman solo film, which is expected to hit theaters in 2019, director Matt Reeves has over 75 years worth of Batman stories to pick from, and some of them definitely don't make the grade. Here's a look at some Batman moments that will never be on the big screen. Messiah of the Crimson Sun. If you've ever wished the James Bond flick Moonraker had starred Batman instead, then boy, do we have a story for you. Appearing in Batman Annual Number 8, Messiah of the Crimson Sun involves al-Ghul making a giant space laser. But after commandeering a space shuttle and engaging in some zero-gravity karate, Batman defeated the leader of the League of Assassins by tractor beaming him into the laser blast. Considering the days of high camp seem to be in Batman's distant past, it's pretty unlikely we'll ever see this one on screen. The Hunchback of the Batcave.
Where does it get those wonderful toys?
In the movies, the Dark Knight's seemingly endless arsenal of crime-fighting equipment was either provided by Lucius Fox or made down in the Batcave by Alfred and Batman himself. It's a pretty good answer, as long as you don't think about it too hard. Why nobody down in Wayne Tech R&D realizes they spend an unusual amount of time sewing up wearable hang glider capes and bat-shaped boomerangs is anyone's guess, but honestly, it actually makes way more sense than what we got in the comics. See, in the comics, all this stuff came courtesy of a hunchbacked mute mechanical genius who lived in the Batcave and spent his life building crap for Batman. This modern-day high-tech Quasimodo was named Harold Allnut, and while he was essential to keeping the Batcave operation going, he almost never got any screen time at all, until he was unceremoniously murdered. The less said about Allnut, the better. Trial of the Bat Witch. Want to know the real reason Batman and Superman seem to always be at each other's throats? Well, one unlikely explanation was provided in the pages of 1969's World's Finest, number 186, where the Man of Steel and the Dark Knight head back in time to find out why real-life Revolutionary War hero Mad Anthony Wayne looks like Batman. The answer, of course, is that they're related, but along the way, Superman claims to be a traveling actor by announcing that the S on his chest stands for Shakespeare, and then sets about convincing the good people of 1776 that Batman is a witch. This might seem out of character for Superman, but there's actually a really good reason for it. He was possessed by a genie. Obviously, Nocturna. Hey, remember the time Batman had a custody battle with a vampire over who got to raise Robin? No? Well, let us introduce you to Nocturna. After adopting Jason Todd, who was Robin at the time, this bloodthirsty arch-criminal then tried to convince Batman that Robin could only be raised properly if they got married. A supernatural rom-com version of Kramer vs. Kramer with Robin stuck in the middle? Hey, someone called Katherine Heigl. A Christmas Story. If you think the story of Christmas begins with a manger, well, you've clearly never read Batman, the Brave and the Bold, number 12, which features the insane tale of how Christmas truly came to be. The story starts with Earth being destroyed and just gets weirder from there. By the end of it, Batman and his partner Adam Strange end up literally rebuilding the universe from within a reality-altering antimatter stream, coincidentally made up of glowing red and green balls of light that twists their bodies. Strange ends up being stretched out and aged, with his rotund, bearded appearance imprinting on the subconscious mind of the rebuilt universe, creating the idea of Santa Claus. And Batman, well, Batman is actually his elf helper. Please make this into a movie. Professor Gorilla. Batman has so many iconic enemies, from the Joker, Catwoman and Penguin to Poison Ivy, Two-Face and the Riddler, that the movies just don't seem to have room for some of his lesser known adversaries, which is too bad because that means we'll probably never see Professor Gorilla in a movie. Originally appearing in the Batman manga by Jiro Kuwata that ran in Japan's Shonen Ace magazine in the 1960s, Professor Gorilla was, well, He was exactly what he sounds like. A gorilla who gained genius-level human intelligence and then tried to exact revenge on the entire human race. Hey, if they're going to keep making Planet of the Apes films, they might as well put Batman in one. Robin dies at dawn. If you were looking for a great story that dealt with the psychological trauma of being Batman, you could do a lot worse than to go back to the 1963 classic, Robin Dies at Dawn. Arguably the best Batman story of the decade. Robin Dies at Dawn shows a Batman who's struggling with the paralyzing fear that his life as a superhero will inevitably lead only to more death and suffering, specifically to Robin's death, which would cause Batman to lose his only family a second time. This crazy story begins with Batman thwarting aliens in space before fighting criminals while wearing a gorilla costume over his batsuit. So it has that going for it too. Unfortunately for modern film fans, some things are so awesome they can only exist in the silver age of comics. Sorry Rainbow Batman and Batbaby. Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you love too.